Hey, what's up everybody? In this crash course tutorial for Cyborg by Free League Publishing and Stockholm Cartel, I'm going to walk you through character creation. Let's get into it.
Cybernation Uncensored.
All right. Now, before we get into this, I just want to ask you one favor, please, before we we dive in and I walk you through character creation. Leave me a like on this video and leave me a comment. I'm really curious if you're new to Cyborg or if you're an old school player and GM. I'm just curious. The reach of these videos. If we're getting new people into the game that are using these videos to learn some of the rules and kind of better understand them, or if you're an old school player or GM to Cyborg and you're using these videos to kind of refresh your memory on the rules or just because you love the genre. I'm just curious, so please leave a like, leave a comment. I would really appreciate that. All right, enough jibba jabba. Let's walk through this character creation. This is a big one, so I'm going to go through each section. Let it be known, I know a lot of people um, initially have a hard time with Cyborg when they get the book because it is very much so style over substance in that it's chaotic, the fonts, the glitches, the artwork. It can be overwhelming just at first glance, but I assure you, if you just walk through page for page starting at the beginning, you'll get through character creation. That's what we're going to do here. We're just going to walk through section for section. I'm going to go over kind of what you need to roll and how it works out, but also keep in mind I have a separate video where I dive into the way combat works, the way hit points and healing and death works, as well as each individual class. Okay, so I'm not going to go over some of those specifics here. I'm just going to go over the basic foundation of character creation. So let's get started. The first thing that you're going to see is you're going to roll a d6 to come up with a name. Obviously, you can just come up with a name yourself. You don't need to go on the list, but there are some pretty interesting names there. I almost suggest it because they're so weird, and I think it could add for some fun role play. The next thing is d6 for some pocket lint. That's basically just some random weird shit that you're going to find in your pocket. Next is a d10 for an infested item. Everyone pretty much ends up with some type of weird item that's infested. If you're familiar with Cyborg or not, there are infested sort of bio, like nano bot things that came from space. I don't want to go into detail right now in this video. This is character creation. Make sure you watch the setting and style video I made where I kind of go over that, as well as the nanomancer, the shunned nanomancer class breakdown, because I better describe exactly what all this infested stuff is, but ultimately everyone ends up with an infested item. Next up, you begin with 2d6 times 10 creds on an anonymous cred stick and some cheap clothes and a retinal comm device, an RCD, which is basically kind of like your way to access the internet. It's not a complete cyber deck, which is, if you're a specific class for that, a burned hacker, I believe it's called, that one you get an actual cyber deck. You can get some apps. You can get a little more in depth when it comes to the internet. But ultimately, everyone has an RCD, so they can at least access the kind of top level of the internet, we'll say. Next up, cash and gear. You're going to see here, you're going to roll a d8, a d12, a d12, and I clipped off the little top of this just to give a little, couple little examples here, because I think it's important to see how random shit can get in Cyborg and how fun it can get, like mirror shades or a hangover. I just think that's so funny. Like, it has items, but then things like hangover, you can end up with a paracord, maybe a bio ID scanner, red juice stimjector, maybe adrenochrome HST, maybe a drone suit. So you can see just some more random gear, basically. Yeah, so random stuff you're going to see. Just those charts, just roll your d8, your d12, your d12. And I would say don't pick something. Go with the randomness of this because it's just way more fun. In fact, it suggests that right here. As you can see, it says optional hacks. Choose or randomize a class and follow the class's instructions for gear, abilities, hit points, debt, and glitches. Roll for features, style, and obsession on pages 54 through 57. And it says here how you roll for abilities, randomize your stuff, roll for debt, roll for glitches, roll your hit points, get shit done. So it wants you just to kind of walk through all these tables and roll it. Like I said, if you're not absolutely happy with the end, you can always just pick something and construct the character that you're imagining or you had planned. But I would say reconsider that possibly. Just think about it. Think about how much fun it can be just to roll on these tables and get some randomness and bring that character to life. But yeah, there you go. It kind of mentions some optional hacks there in the sense that you're going to go through these tables, but then if you pick a class, you can end up with those individual roles, and they each have their own individual things. I'll mention that a little bit later. But next up is the abilities. This is probably the most important part of character creation because this is getting your main stats, your main abilities: agility, knowledge, presence, strength, and toughness. You're basically going to roll a 3d6 on each one of those, and then you're going to refer to that table you see down there. Depending on what you roll, you end up with that modifier, that -3, -2, -1, no modifier, +1, +2, +3. Each ability, each stat is basically going to have a different modifier. And then it says throw this away after getting your scores because the 3d6 doesn't really matter. As far as to your stat, that's just going to give you that modifier. And that modifier is what is important to your stat because you're always going to be rolling and then adjusting by your modifier. But again, I go over the core mechanics of all that in the core mechanics video crash course. So make sure you check that out so you understand better how that works. But this is how you basically get those ability stats figured out. And also it's important to note that if you're not going to pick a class, if you're not going to pick like Shun Nanomancer, Orphaned Gearhead, there's a bunch of them. I go over that in the class breakdown. I made a bunch of individuals, and then I'm probably going to combine it in one master video as well. But if you don't pick a class and you just basically are a classless punk in this cyberpunk world, right, of Cyborg in the city of Cy, then you're going to roll 46 and drop the lowest for 2 abilities of their choice. So basically you're going to decide which 2 of your lowest and drop those. So you can basically kind of extreme it a bit. So you'll see in the individual class videos how they kind of modify certain things in a way. And I think this is a way to kind of do that, but by your choice, right? So you're going to do the 46, but then you kind of decide which is maxed and which is your lowest and things. So it's just a way to kind of generalize your character. Now, to be honest, I think it's way more fun to pick a class because these classes are crazy. You'll see that in that video, and they all have their own like little additions to character creation and little adjustments and stuff, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So I recommend that, obviously. But the next up is style. You're going to roll a D100. Let me give a few examples here, like of style and the way that Cyborg kind of lays it out in a way where it doesn't define it. It just gives you these crazy, descriptions or words or titles, and then it allows you as a player or a GM to kind of bring it to life as you interpret it. So I love that. Like, look at this: blood sport, cadaver core. Like, what the hell is cadaver core? I think that's insane. But murder core, necro pop, neuro tripper, new flesh. So there's some styles. Next up, you're going to roll a D100 once again for a feature. Here's some feature examples like heavy on the makeup, holomorphed face, interesting perfume, lace trimmings, laser branded lipless, just teeth. I think that's insane. Mirror eyes, not mirror shades, mirror eyes. Now imagine if you roll on the mirror shades on the other stuff, and then you also have mirror eyes on your feature. That would be kind of crazy. But you can see how just Cyborg can make some really interesting characters if you just roll on these things and go with it and then bring it to life, figure out ways to role play it and make it unique and fun for you. Next up, you're going to roll your wants, your current obsession, and obviously those are exactly what they sound like. And then quirks. There's some fun quirks and some interesting stuff in there. And again, like, just check out those lists. Go with the randomness because they're fun. Next up, weapons, D12 or by class. And again, like I mentioned, some classes might have their own adjustments to weapons. They might say, you know what, since you're this class, you don't roll on that weapons table. You get to pick from these things right here. You know what I mean? And again, I go over that in those class breakdown videos, so make sure you check those out. But ultimately, you're going to roll a D12 if you're, not told to do what your particular class, like if your class doesn't have an adjustment to weapons, you're just going to roll a D12, you know what I mean? Or if you're a classless punk. But there you go. There's a whole list there. Next up is armor. You're going to roll a D3, or again, by class, because sometimes the classes have their own like little rules or adjustments to armor. And armor, another thing to note is they're kind of in tiers. So they're tiers based on how they adjust the damage, and I go over that in my combat video, so make sure you check that out. Next up, You have debt. I think this is probably one of the more fun parts of Cyborg, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the game. I love all aspects of it. I think it's very unique, creative, and fun. It's dangerous. It's everything I love about Cyberpunk in the sense that it is absolutely style over substance. But within the different mechanics and things, like I think it's fun to start out with some type of extreme debt, just to kind of put the pressure on you that this world is fucked up and the city of Psy is dystopian and you have a debt to someone. There's all these different options of people you owe money to. You roll it there as you see. You do a D12 to figure out who, and then you got to figure out how bad they want their money. And I think this is just so awesome. You say, how badly do they want their cash back? Roll a D6. 1 through 6 vary. I just think that's awesome. It just, puts that dark tone on the game that it sets the tone. Let's just say that. It just lets you know how brutal this game is. Next up, equipment. Now, you're not going to roll on equipment. You're going to buy equipment. So based on when you earlier rolled on your random cred stick, right? So you can buy some equipment. You go buy some drugs. And then hopefully if you still have some money left, you're buying some cyber tech, because there's some pretty interesting cyber tech. And I want to note here, I have a separate video. I kind of go over that, but just like the other things I mentioned with style and different things, like, the cyber tech is no different. They'll list what it is, maybe a little description or something, or what it does, how it adjusts certain roles or something. But that's it. It's vague. And again, it allows you to kind of take these titles, take what they do, and let your imagination create exactly how it fits into the world you've created up here, or what you're envisioning to be immersive. And I really love that. Next up, you begin with D2 glitches. I have a complete video about what glitches are. Make sure you check out that crash course on glitches. But ultimately, you're going to roll D2, which is like flipping a coin, basically, or, odds and evens on a D6 or any die. And you got some glitches. Next up, hit points. And again, it's going to be your toughness plus D8, or maybe your class has some adjustments. But ultimately, I have a video that I go over on healing and death and hit points and all that sort of stuff. So make sure you check that out so you better understand what happens as you start taking damage, because there is some fun stuff. And then the last thing is emergency body modification. And in this case, I think this is fun because it, again, sets a tone and it keeps shit immersive. It makes it very realistic because you're going to roll on this, and it even suggests that you can do, roll D6 for right or left or whatever, but there's a whole chart here. You roll a D20 on it, and it's basically getting prosthetics, you know what I mean? So it's non-cybertech prosthesis. Included in the table. These do not increase your Psi Rage DR. I go over Psi Rage when I go over the hit points in that crash course. But ultimately, this is like, you got fucked up along the way in Psi or somewhere out there, and, you didn't get Cybertech replacement. You didn't have the money for it, maybe. Maybe you just have some type of, like, prosthetic, arm, leg, fake something. Maybe it's lab grown. I don't know. And again, this what I love about this is, like, be creative. It's not going to be cybertech, so it's definitely going to be something that doesn't maybe adjust roles and stuff like that. But I think that this offers a chance for more style, which I love, because that leans into role play, and I'm so much into role play. Over crunch, over style, over substance. So again, I think that kind of adds to it, because it's just given another little flavor to your character that you can play with. And that's one of those, I think, that, again, like the others, like, roll on it. Just go with it. Go with what the dice say. I have a bit of a homebrew where I always say in games with character creation certain things like, if you want to find the best of both worlds between choosing and chance of the dice, is roll twice and then pick your favorite. That way you're getting, a choice, but it's out of 2 chances. You're just rolling some dice. You're still randomly getting a couple options, but you at least get to pick within that randomness, if that makes sense. However, I want to say in Cyborg, I almost encourage everyone, just go random. Roll the dice, go with the tables. They're so crazy. I can't encourage it enough. So check that out. Let me know if this video was helpful with character creation, because like I said, I know the book can get chaotic with all the style, and I wanted to walk through section for section just to kind of help you go through it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll help you out as always. You see on all the crash course tutorials, no matter which game system or whatever I'm putting out, or my GM tips or deep dives, when people leave questions or comments, I answer them. I try to help out, and I love getting feedback. I love to hear how these videos help your gameplay, and also just about your gameplay in general. Like, let me know what kind of character character you created. I'd love to know what class is your favorite and how you had, came up on these tables. What randomness did you end up with, and what was the end result of your character? You know what I mean? I just love seeing that sort of stuff. But anyways, all right. I could talk for hours about this game. I'm going to shut up and get on to the next crash course. Hopefully you check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.
Cybernation Uncensored.